Hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of the James and Brown Podcast. I'm Raj, your host, and with me, as always, is my co-host Spencer. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing really good.
That's great. So Spencer, I've had an idea recently.
What's your idea?
So I was thinking that I want to write this series where these two little kids lose their mother to some sort of disease, and they want to bring her back. But in doing so, the younger one loses his entire body, and the older one loses his arm, and he also loses his leg, but that's because he brought his younger brother back and tied his soul to a suit of armor. So I want to make this series, and I want to sell it and make a buttload of money. And you know what I want to do with that money?
What do you want to do?
I want to make a series about farming.
Oh.
So what I am talking about, of course, is Silver Spoon. Now, Fullmetal Alchemist is my favorite anime of all time. Is it your favorite too?
Yep, it is by far, if you made a list of 10 animes that I have to show my son before he dies, and I die, it is like number 2 or 1. It's up there.
Yeah, so for me, it's been at the top of my list since Brotherhood has come out, and so far nothing has beaten it. Some have come close, like Titan, but Fullmetal's just at the top. Now, Silver Spoon, I actually read the manga a little bit, maybe a few chapters, and I didn't really get into it. And a lot of the times when Spencer recommends anime to me, I've already read a bit of the manga, and I've decided I didn't like it. But, as usual, he was very adamant about me watching this, so I gave it a shot.
It always seems to be the case that I just kind of stumble upon anime just because I go through Crunchyroll's release, like simulcasts, and I'm like, it's worth a try. And I just kind of throw it out there, and I get this like gut feeling at the beginning of episodes, just like, we need to watch this. It was the same way with Steins Gate, actually. That was a crazy one. It was just all of a sudden I was like, well, this one's been going for 3 episodes. And then I'm like, you need to watch this. And Silver Spoon was not as crazy as Steins Gate, but it was up there.
I'm so happy you recommended Steins Gate to me. It's so good. It's also one of my favorite anime. It's so amazing.
If you haven't seen Steins Gate yet, stop listening to this, watch Steins Gate, and then listen to this again, please.
So back to Silver Spoon. Our main character, his name is Hachiken Yugo. We'll just call him Hachiken. And he's kind of interesting where he's a normal, just an everyday kind of city guy. And he's under pressure by his father mostly to do really well in school. And he fails his entrance exams to high school. And the thing is, his dad's not really good about failure. And so he berates his son for that. And Hachiken kind of just loses all of his confidence. And he doesn't know what to do with his life anymore. He kind of just gives up. And so he decides to go to an agricultural school, I think they call it, which is basically a school where you go for farming. And he really does it to run away from his family because he can't stand being around his parents anymore.
I really liked the series right when it started because I'm a huge fan of Harvest Moon and those kind of games. I really like the agricultural aspect. You're going to slaughter me for this, but Mushimon or Masayoshi Moon or whatever, it was this anime that came out a couple seasons ago about a boy who could see bacteria. And it was based in an agricultural... I don't think you've ever seen that.
No, I've never heard of this, actually.
Yeah. It is hilarious. It's like Silver Spoon's setting, but with a bunch of goofy characters in an agricultural school. And I'd come off of watching that anime into watching this one, and that's kind of what drew me towards it, was the whole farming aspect of the agricultural school.
I have a surprise for you. I bet there's a part of me that you don't know about.
I think there's a lot of you that I don't know about.
Did you know I grew up on a farm?
You serious?
I grew up on a farm when I was a kid.
Where?
In India. And so, really, this anime for me, we already discussed it in our last podcast. I didn't like it, at least for the first season. You're supposed to relate to Hachiken himself, which I don't really do, because he's kind of different from me. For example, the immense stress of failure and stuff like that. I don't have that kind of stuff. He doesn't really know what to do with his life. I don't have that either. I know most people can relate to him, and that's kind of your hook into the series. That didn't do it for me. For me, it was actually the farming, because it's so incredibly realistic that's sort of what somewhat kept me into the series. Like I guess I would say like 40% of what kept me into it, because having grown up on a farm, granted I don't know a lot about farming, but I do have some experience with it. And so everything that he went through was very realistic. Now, part of the reason I didn't like it is because of his reactions to it, which, I mean, you're supposed to relate to, but again, I can't. For example, he finds out early on that chickens lay eggs out of their anuses. And that, like, he can't eat eggs after that. And I was so irritated over this. I don't know how it was for you, but it's like, it's just a goddamn egg. Eat it. I don't know if that's because I was raised on a farm or if I just don't have a problem with eggs coming out of anuses.
Well, I've personally never seen a chicken lay an egg. I had a friend back in the day who had chickens in their property, and we would go and gather eggs sometimes. It was kind of fun. But I never saw the chicken kind of poop the egg out. I think that would be kind of disconcerting, but you got to imagine there's a huge divide between the city folk and the agricultural folk, like usually. And for Hachiken, he probably never experienced this before. And you'll notice that throughout the series, he actually struggles with a bunch of different things in regards to animals as he comes to the realization of how they're treated and how they're raised and all this stuff.
Yeah, Hachiken, he gets attached to things very easily, and that really kind of bites him in the butt. Because you can't really get super attached to things in the farming business. I mean, you raise a pig from when it's born, but it's going to be killed for food. And that's actually one of the big arcs in the series, but we'll get to that. Hachiken himself is a very kind person, and he's very realistic in that, for example, he doesn't have any interest in clubs, but he joins the equestrian club. That's where you raise horses and stuff, because the girl he likes goes into it, which I can totally see myself doing.
Did he like Mikage at that point?
Yeah, he fell for her as soon as he saw her.
Oh, okay. It was one of those. Okay.
But it wasn't like full on, like, I'm in love with her yet. That's another reason that I like Hachiken. He was just like, I kind of like this girl. I want to be with her a little bit. So a lot of at least in the first season, a lot of the arcs are just about, or the mini arcs rather, they're about Hachiken like learning something new about farming, and then generally it gets to him, or he does something that people find funny because he's a city guy. And then it's just about him getting over it. And I hated every minute of it. I really didn't like this first season of the series. It really grated me. And I actually know why. Because I was thinking about it a couple days before. And it turns out, at least I realized that all the character development in the first season, and there's a lot of it, especially for Hachiken, doesn't actually pay off until the second season. Which is why I didn't like the first season. The reason Silver Spoon, at least season 1 for me, was a very, I'm just going to kind of watch this because I can anime, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
A lot of anime that have 12 episodes, I'll generally just sit through in one sitting on the weekend if I have nothing else to do. Silver Spoon was kind of like that for me. And when season 2 was released, you were so excited.
Oh, I was beyond excited. For me, like, I'm in the middle of university, and so my saving escapism is anime whenever it comes out on a specific day. And when I found out, when Raj Pete was like, "Oh yeah, Silver Spoon's releasing," did you know that? And I was like, "Ah!" I sat on the bus through lecture, on the bus ride home, in my bed, catching up to all 5 of the episodes that I had missed, just nonstop. I just love it. I love this anime. I don't know if it's, like I said earlier, I don't know if it's ties to Harvest Moon, or when I watch anime in spring, which is I think when this one came out, the first season came out was in the spring. I'm done university for the 4 months, and I'm in my relax zone. I work and then I come home, and that usually means work and then anime. And for me, the series that I watch during springtime are the ones that I hold closest to my heart in that kind of emotional way. Like I watched actually Cardcaptor Sakura. I'm going to admit that I watched it.
That's fine. It's a perfectly good anime.
I watched that one in spring. I also watched blanking on the name. It was like with these eggs, and there was girls who liked the eggs, and they were preppy high school. I don't remember what the name is, but I don't know. There are these eggs that brew in people's hearts and fly away, and Moody. If anyone listening watched that anime, that probably clicked with you. But anyways, those kind of like animes really sink in with me, and so Silver Spoon, I really loved it, and when it came out for the second season, I was pumped.
Yeah, and I said I would never watch the second season. Actually, I have another friend who watched probably half the first season, and like me, he didn't like it, so he just kind of dropped at that point. And he agreed with me, like, yeah, Silver Spoon's kind of lame. It's really boring. But I started watching the second season anyway, mostly because you made me. You do that a lot, where you just want to watch anime with me, and then I'll just oblige.
Well, it's really boring when I don't get to talk to it with anyone because my fiance just kind of she watches it with me sometimes, but she kind of rolls her eyes whenever I talk about it, especially as passionately as I do. So, yeah.
I don't know if she fully accepts our anime love yet.
She will eventually, especially if we keep doing these podcasts. She'll have to be in the other room.
So, along with Hachiken and the girl he likes, Mikage, Mikage has a childhood friend named Komaba, and there's another character named Tokiwa, I think. He's really dumb, and he's kind of like a chicken. Tokiwa, Komaba, Hachiken, and Hachiken's roommate, Beppu. They kind of form like Hachiken's close group of friends. And they're kind of the group that he hangs out with all the time. And they don't really get a ton of character development, with the exception of Komaba. The rest are just kind of for comedic relief purposes and stuff like that. For example, Tokiwa, there's an episode where he walks in on Hachiken and another girl named Yoshino talking, and Yoshino actually like falls over and bumps her head. And she said, "Oh, this bump hurts. You better take responsibility, Hachiken." And so Tokiwa starts spreading rumors that Hachiken got her pregnant. And you think this would actually be a filler episode, but you find out very subtly that through this that Mikage actually likes Hachiken back, but she doesn't know that herself. And it was moments like that for the anime that I really enjoyed, where it kind of got away from the farming a bit and it just focused on the comedy.
What I like about the series a lot is that the characters stand on their own, and what Silver Spoon can do is they build enough character that no matter what situation they're put in, they're still themselves. You know what I mean? And like Hajime Nishikawa, he's also a roommate with Beppu and Hachiken. He's like this kind of serious... I believe he works in the fields. He's kind of a vegetable.
Yeah, he does. I know where you're going with this.
And he, in season 2, they're, what is it called? Bane? Is that what it is? Bane or?
Banbei? I don't know.
Banbei,
it's like horse racing.
Giant horses are pulling very heavy carts, and they're trying to spruce up the carts' images for the festival they're having. And Nishikawa says, no, I got this. And Hachiken and Mikage come in and find that he's painted all of them like idols. Like Japanese anime characters and girls and everything. He's really pink and vibrant. And it kind of continues on where Nishikawa is like painting figurines in his room or reading manga. And that's just persistent throughout the whole anime. And I love that kind of consistency.
Yeah. The side characters are really great. There's one called Tamako. She's kind of this very pudgy girl. And the reason that she's such a great character is because it's revealed that she actually has the ability to become really thin and good looking, but she doesn't do it because she finds herself more comfortable in a larger body. And so even though she can look really good and guys would like go out with her, she doesn't care about any of that. She just wants to be as comfortable as she can, and she's comfortable as kind of pudgy. And I think that's really cool.
What else I like about Tamako, which is weird because we're not calling her by her last name like we're calling everybody else. The anime just consistently called her Tamako.
Yeah.
That was weird. It was her first name. Weird. Anyways, she also comes from a very reputable, I don't know, whatever. A very high-ranking farm within like the world of Silver Spoon. And she has a lot of good advice for Hachiken about how to deal with certain situations that comes up, like cattle treatment. When things come up with Komaba and Mikage's farm, she also gives a little bit of a understanding to Hachiken about what actually goes on in the world of farming, and she's that kind of harsh sensei kind of teacher that would kind of punch Hachiken into a wall, causing a ridiculous amount of blood splatter, but also give him advice. And she was kind of like that core advice giver in the group, which was good.
Speaking of teachers, my absolute favorite moment of this anime actually happens in the season 1 that I hated, is when they reveal who the PE teacher is. And it's actually Lieutenant Armstrong from Fullmetal.
You told me about that, and I actually haven't gone back to rewatch it.
It was absolutely amazing. He doesn't even talk. He has a cameo. He rips off his shirt and then he goes jogging. And it's just something that he would do. It's amazing.
Didn't the voice actor for Armstrong, did he pass away? Is that?
Yeah, he died.
Oh man, that's really sad. Because if I was ever hoping for any Fullmetal Alchemist continue forwards, I guess they'd have to find him a new voice.
Yeah, Armstrong had a very iconic voice. He was probably my favorite character in Fullmetal. He's just so funny.
You definitely like him a lot. That's true.
So, with Hachiken himself, he has a few issues, namely, character issues, in that, namely, he has very bad anxiety because of his previous failure. And so he's constantly afraid of failing again, to the point where his solution to not doing well at something is to just do it more often, no matter who it actually hurts indirectly. Along with that, he's also kind of a yes man. He can't really say no to anybody. So, like, he finds a pizza oven, and then, and this is in the first season, and he's like, oh, we could probably make pizza out of this. And then everybody suddenly says, oh, you'll make us pizza, right? And he just says yes, even though he doesn't really want to. And then he expends a lot of effort doing that. But in being a yes man, he gains a really good reputation among the other students. And they all realize he's a really good person. But at the same time, they can kind of see through him and see that he like overthinks things a lot, and he's very anxious. The vice principal of the school actually comes, and he tells Hachiken, like, ask him if it's bad that he's like a yes man, and like he kind of wears his emotions on his sleeve. And the vice principal says there are two types of people in this world: those who are really good at showing their emotions, and those who have trouble showing them and keep them inside. And he kind of said that it's your job to help those people out.
You're talking about the little guy, right?
Yeah.
He's the principal.
Oh, right. I said vice principal.
I think the gray-haired guy is the principal, right? Or something, whatever. The guy who keeps kind of being in the in-between man to Hachiken and his parents.
I thought that was just his homeroom teacher.
Oh, regardless, the little guy is actually the principal.
Yeah, that's what I meant. So the common theme among the first season and pretty much the second season as well is that Hachiken will say yes to everything. And so the big thing in the first season was actually that he raised this pig from being a little piglet as soon as it was born to being like a fat, full-fledged pig. And then he has to kill it. Like, it has to be sold off to be killed. And I think it lasted like 3 or 4 episodes. It was a large part of this first season where he just had to deal with this. And it was horrible.
I really enjoyed it. Thank you very much. You're going to find out, as always, that I'm a really big sucker for the emotional things in anime. Like the ones that, if they want to hook you with emotion, I will get hooked and dragged along 50 feet. I remember distinctly you hating on Silver Spoon. I was like, oh, Silver Spoon's over. It was so good. And you're like, I hated it. They had an entire arc about a freaking pig. And I was like, it's Pork Bowl, man. Like, he's great.
He's a goddamn pig. His entire existence is meant to feed humans.
Yes, but it was also to work through Hachiken and his issues with farming and his issues with kind of overthinking and being overzealous about stuff. He named an animal, raised it, made sure it was big enough to be bought on the market, and then bought it himself. It just shows that he was kind of growing up in responsibility. Speaking of responsibility, the money that he actually used to buy the pig was from Mikage's farm, right?
Yeah, that was actually, I guess we could call it a mini arc, where that was the only mini arc that I legitimately enjoyed, like from beginning to end, where he spends, I think it's like spring break or something like that, summer break, at Mikage's farm working part-time and living there. Mostly because he doesn't want to go home for one, but also because he gets to spend some time with Mikage. That was a really good arc because Mikage's family is really funny, especially her dad. And the female side of her family, no, I guess it's actually her entire family minus her dad, wants Hachiken to marry her because apparently being the son of a businessman is like really desirable. And so they want Mikage to marry Hachiken. Her dad is completely against it and just like constantly watching them when they're alone together. It's hilarious. But Hachiken he does this thing where he accidentally spills a bunch of milk, and I mean a ton of milk, like a couple $1,000s worth at least. Yeah. And he just feels horrendously guilty. And you get a really big sense of responsibility from him where he doesn't even accept his pay at the end of the vacation, where he says, I made you lose all this money, and I just don't deserve to get paid. And actually Mikage's dad says, accidents happen all the time. It doesn't matter. Take this money. You earned it. And I think it was Mikage's great-grandmother that said, depending on how a man spends his money, that's what defines him. And if you don't accept it now, it would be very rude and would define you as not a good man or something like that.
Something like that, around those lines. I really like that it's kind of foreshadowed that Mikage's family farm is going to run into some issues just because, like, when all the milk spilled, they were very fearful about it. They didn't really show Hachiken all the emotions that were going on. They were they were playing it down, but it really, if you look at the second season when they're in a lot of debt, that milk could have helped with that debt. You know what I mean? Just the little things that they were kind of sheltering Hachiken from because they like him. So I found that interesting.
Yeah, I want to talk about his brother for a little bit.
Yeah.
Hachiken's older brother, Shingo, is... First of all, he's voiced by Kamina, which automatically makes me love him. And secondly, he's, in every sense, the older brother, where he can do what Hachiken can't. For example, he got into Tokyo University easily. He does it. And then he gets in, and he's like, you know what? I don't like university. And he drops out. And he decides to just do whatever he wants. So he just drives around the country doing odd jobs here and there. And this really pisses off Hachiken because Hachiken couldn't get into high school despite trying really hard. Oh, no. Yes, it was high school.
It was high school. The funny thing about Shingo is that he's just one of those gag characters that most of the time, every single part-time job that he picks up, usually when he gets introduced, involves Hachiken and his community. And Shingo sucks at cooking. Like, absolutely the worst. But he builds himself up to be awesome, puts his whole heart into it, and it ends up tasting like garbage. I don't know, just something funny like that it was one of those comedic relief moments.
He was a great character, and his dream is to be a ramen chef, I think. I don't know if he gives that up because he keeps failing at cooking, but really he just does whatever he wants, and I like him because he's very much a realistic kind of older brother, where, for example, I don't have troubles with studies in myself. I'm an older brother myself, but my younger brother has a lot of troubles with studies, so it was kind of realistic that way, at least for me. And so, moving on to the second season, things got a lot more heavy. Hachiken starts getting more responsibility in that he becomes the vice president of the equestrian club. He adopts a puppy because he's a yes man and he can't say no. And things just start to get darker. We learn actually that each season of the show kind of corresponds to the actual seasons in the world. For example, first season was in summer and second season's in fall, and it ends when going into, like, we're on the cusp of winter. And so... Did you not notice that?
No, I didn't notice that. That was whoa, okay, cool.
Yeah, so each season is like a real world season. So that was pretty interesting.
Does that mean there's going to be 4 seasons?
I'm pretty sure that it's going to have at least 3 because they hinted at the second one. Spencer right now is raising his arms in victory and happiness that there's going to be more Silver Spoon in the future. The manga's still going on, you know?
Well, we don't read mangas for things that we want to watch. It spoils.
For most things, anyway. And so in the second season, there's really only 2 big things that happen, I guess. No, I guess there's 3 because Hachiken, they have this festival that you talked about before, Spencer. And what he wants to do is make horses like really cool. We should note that Hachiken has actually never liked horses before. Again, the only reason he joined the club was because of the girl he likes, Mikage. And so, but he's kind of slowly, throughout the first season and the second season, getting better with horses. He's starting to see the appeal behind them, but he still doesn't like outright say he likes them. But he does want to show people that horses are cool. And being the yes man that he is, he takes on a bunch of work, and he works himself to the bone to get this festival going, because he's not only working for the horse race thing that he's doing for his own club, he's helping a bunch of other clubs out too, because he has to get favors from them, and in return he has to work for them as well. And he does a ton of work, which is really impressive, I would say. And this is actually the episode where I realized somehow I had started liking the series.
Yeah, I think the exact words were, when did Silver Spoon get so good?
Because what happens is, it's, I think, the night before the festival, and Hachiken talks to Mikage, and he says, listen, after the festival, why don't you and we go hang out? And Mikage just says, oh yeah, who else should we invite? And normally in anime, Hachiken would just give up at this point, and that's what I thought was going to happen. But Hachiken perseveres, and he just says, no, just you and me, it'll be my treat. And she's like, oh, it'll be your treat? Sure, why not? And then Hachiken, they do this whole thing where flowers explode around him and he's all happy. And I fist pumped, and I looked at myself like, what the hell? When did I start caring? Yeah. And at the end of the episode, actually, Hachiken ends up passing out due to all the stress that he's built up. He actually needs like 3 alarm clocks to wake up in the morning because of all the stress and the lack of sleep he's getting. And he takes the dog that he adopted out for a walk, and then he stretches and he falls down. He passes out. He's gone. And that's where the episode ends. And I wear headphones when I watch anime. I threw my headphones off in complete anger. Like, why would you do this to me? Why do I care so much right now? Why do I want to watch this anime?
I thought that the anime was going to take a more serious turn. It did actually take a more serious turn because we get introduced to Hachiken's dad, who's pretty dang scary. And you're beginning to notice when you meet Hachiken's dad just how much the art style is very similar to Fullmetal. Like the hard lines on the face, the very long, kind of horse-like faces of the guys. You know what I mean? Like that kind of manly look. That's there. But I really was taken aback that they actually made him faint. I just want to do a little aside about Mikage. When Hachiken is doing all of these pursuits of her, she's beginning to talk to her lady friends about it. And they're like, are you dumb? This is clearly, like, poor Hachiken. He's trying his hardest. And when she begins to notice, it's actually really cute, I find. That it's really endearing, where she's beginning to realize that she has feelings for him, and that he's trying, and it's a date, and she's blushing. I don't know. I like it.
I love Mikage's friends because they're completely on Hachiken's side. They're like, he's always throwing hints at you. What the hell is wrong with you? One of her friends actually like throws like I think flowers at her, and she's like, "You idiot! Just go out with him already." Mikage actually has this kind of complex where she feels like she has a lot of baggage because she comes from a farm, and a farm has a lot of baggage to her. And her friends tell her that doesn't matter to a high schooler. He doesn't care about that. He wants to be with you, not with your stupid farm. Yeah. And you should just do what you want. And that actually, when they do eventually go out on their date, Tokikawa...
I was going to mention this.
Tokikawa comes running out after them like, hey, where are you going? Where are we going to hang out? And her friends come and they just like sumo him into the ground and like yell, run Hachiken, run away.
It is Claned style of destruction. You know that when that white hair girl just destroys
Tomoyo.
Yeah, Tomoyo destroys the blonde guy.
Sunohara.
Yeah, when Sunohara gets destroyed with the 1,000-hit combo and flies out the window, it was one of those moments when Tokiwa just got annihilated. Like it was combo punch, like with gym equipment, and it was. I just found it hilarious, and he just got amazing. So subdued, and everyone's like, "Go!" and they're all like, "What was that?"
And the best thing was like both Hachiken and Mikage, as soon as they see him, just have this look of terror, like, "Oh no!" It's great.
Everyone has one of those friends in their life who will self-invite themselves to everything.
So the other big thing, other than the festival, that happens is throughout the first and second season, Komaba, who, like I said before, is Mikage's childhood friend, and actually he becomes a very good friend of Hachiken over time. He plays baseball a lot, and he's very, very hardworking with baseball. Like, he'll go to his club activities, but then even during the festival, he would go and help Hachiken prepare for the festival after he got out at like 8 or 9 p.m., just because he's such a good guy. And so he's playing baseball, and eventually they actually lose the tournament. And everybody is like, "Oh, that's too bad," but they could try again next year. And then Komaba disappears. He doesn't come to school again. He's gone for like a week.
You know what's strange about that is the anime didn't really mention that he was gone. It kind of just, when he disappeared, the anime continued forward after the baseball game for about half an episode, and it was just like, "Oh, okay, where's Komaba?" I just didn't really notice he was gone, and then the characters started saying, "Oh, where's Komaba?" And that's when everything starts ramping up. I just want to take note just quickly about when Hachiken passed out. That's when we start meeting his dad. I just want to put that into place because that comes in after Komaba's thing. Hachiken's dad is intense. He's one of those, those memes with like the old Asian guy holding a paper and he's the old,
it's like overly expectant Asian father.
Yes, that one. Pretty much that is Hachiken's dad.
I have a lot to talk about Hachiken at the end of the podcast when I talk more about his character. His dad being one of them, because I think his dad's actually one of the best characters in this anime. Because I realized something about him the other day, which is really interesting.
Okay, I don't know what you're going to say, so I definitely won't want to tramp on your toes there. So let's move on into Komaba again and what happened to him when he was leaving.
Yeah, Hachiken actually finds out via like third party, that Komaba's dropping out of high school. And you find out that it's actually because his farm has gone under. He's gone bankrupt. He, by the way, has 2 little sisters who are in elementary school, and his mom is a single mother, so he doesn't have a dad. And his mom is trying to run this ranch, or farm rather, all on her own while Komaba goes to high school. And you actually find out from Komaba himself that he told his mother he's going to drop out of high school, but he wants one chance to try to go to the baseball nationals and become pro. And if at any point he fails, he will drop out of high school and get a job to help her.
It's here where you see Hachiken's character totally shine, and he becomes totally self-aware. He cannot control himself when he's seeing Mikage and Komaba and pretty much everyone around him who understands what's going on with the debt. Because apparently in the farm culture, it's very real, the debt and the possibility of closure and everything. But Hachiken, coming from the city, doesn't understand and wants to know from Mikage what's going on with her and Komaba, and he persistently asks, and Mikage says, don't worry about it, and Komaba says, no, it has nothing to do with you, you can't help. And
that line specifically hits him hard, saying, this has nothing to do with you.
And Hachiken is going crazy at this point. He just needs to help, and he wants to help, because that's just who he is.
Yeah, it gets to the point where I think he's alone with Mikage in like their equestrian club room, and he just ends up grabbing her hand and saying, because she says she doesn't want him to suffer with her, and so he shouldn't worry about her. And he grabs her hand and just says, I don't care, I want to suffer, I want you to drag me into this, I want you to make me a part of your life, I want to help you. And that's actually where the episode ends, and it's such a great moment.
I wanted a kiss.
I don't think we're going to get one for a while, actually.
There wasn't a kiss, right, at all?
No, there was no kiss. Actually, something funny happened where one of the club members opens the door, says, I'm locking up, and then he sees them holding hands, and he's like, should I lock up with you two inside here? It's actually this funny thing where everybody kind of knows that they like each other, but nobody will say anything. They'll just kind of like inadvertently help them. It's pretty funny. But, so Mikage ends up telling Hachiken everything about Komoba's farm. Basically, his dad borrowed money from Mikage's dad to expand his farm, and then he shortly passed away after that. And so that left both Komoba's family and Mikage's family in deep debt. And so her family in particular should be okay for a little while, but Komoba's farm is just gone. And so Hachiken actually tries to think of a bunch of ways to get money for both Komoba and Mikage. He just wants to do his best. He goes to like his roommate. He's like, "Oh, anime figurines! I bet we could sell these for some money." And he just does things like that. But he eventually realizes that it's too much for him. He can't single-handedly really get Komoba's farm back. He actually, with Mikage, visits Komoba's farm the day that they're selling off all their assets. And so he just spends kind of the farm's last moments there.
It's kind of in stark contrast to when he was visiting Mikage's farm in season 1, where everything was actually... That's when we hit the deer, right? And he had to cut the deer open?
Yes, I think so.
Yeah, and everything there seemed really optimistic. He was learning about farm life. It was really exciting. But here, when he's doing that last final drive up to Komoba's farm, it was actually really depressing. And throughout the whole mini arc where this was happening, I was hoping against hope that Hachiken would find out something to fix the situation and help Komoba come back to school. But that's what's really good about Silver Spoon, is it doesn't give in to surrealism. It's always real. Even at the end of the season, when near the ending credits, Komoba is still working. He's not at school. There's still limbo within the relationships. I just found that great.
Yeah, Silver Spoon is very realistic in a lot of regards. Like I said, with the farming, but also with the characters. That episode where they're going to Komoba's farm, they go early in the morning, and it's like very foggy. It's very dark out. The whole thing is very gloomy. And they clean up the remains of the farm. They see his cows getting sold off. Komoba's little sisters are crying. His mom is holding herself together. Komoba is just standing there being very statute, I guess. He's just like calm, even though you know it's like hurting him inside. And he has to go to his job later, and Mikage says, "Oh, I'm glad that he doesn't look all that sad." And Hachiken, like the vice principal, or the principal, I don't know why I keep calling him the vice principal. Like the principal said, Hachiken can see people's emotions very well. And he said, no, he's actually suffering really badly. The only reason he looks like that is because he's trying to put himself into something that he can do that'll like help him progress. But he's a man whose dreams have been completely broken.
I really like the scenes where Hachiken gets mad and he yells. When whoever is Hachiken's voice actor, I don't know, but he does a really good job of being passionate. That's what I've found. Just punching the character straight where he should punch them, and then the reactions he gets. It's why everybody likes Hachiken. It's why near the ending credits, when everyone is gathering around him and he's having all his friends when his mom comes to visit, just how that kind of that made me really smile. The end part where they're having the shiitake mushroom. They always have these random banquets, these random moments where they're like, we have extra food, let's eat it. And they all have a really great time eating. Really makes me hungry whenever I watch the anime on a Saturday. Oh, Thursday it came out.
Yeah, it comes out Thursdays.
But I just love that kind of atmosphere, which is another thing. If an anime has a solid, big cast that has these really great moments of like relaxing, it was like, oh man, I'm blanking on the name. But Irresponsible Captain Tyler. Have you ever seen it?
Never heard of it.
Oh my goodness. Irresponsible Captain Tyler had... Tyler? Probably Taylor, whatever. Had a great cast that made it all the way through the 24 episode anime. Made you realize, like, you love those moments where there was kind of distracted frivolousness, where they just kind of partied without any of the worries of the anime going on, and it really endears you to the characters, and I love that. So that's what I really liked about this anime and all the characters around him. And when Hachiken got mad, it just kind of... Hachiken never faltered with his character. That's what I really liked. It was always the same, with minor character changes that made sense.
The writer of Fullmetal Alchemist, I forget her name, she's extremely good at keeping a large cast and giving them all like very solid characters and giving all of them their own screen time and development. And that, I mean, she did that in Fullmetal Alchemist, and it transfers really well into Silver Spoon, as it should. As for Mikage, actually, Hachiken finds out that she has a dream to work with horses. She is obsessed with horses, but her entire family expects her to take over the farm because they need someone to take it over eventually. And so, she accepts, and it's all under the assumption that when she graduates, she's going to go straight into the farm and just own the farm. But Hachiken knows that she has the dream to work with horses, and the entire series, he's kind of pushing her, he's nudging her to tell her parents, like, you need to tell them about this. And this actually comes to a head when, after Komoba sells his cows and stuff, the preceding episode, they go to Mikage's farm, and they're talking about things they can do to get themselves out of debt or help themselves to get out of debt. And Hachiken goes for moral support. Actually, something great that happens is because Mikage is like completely in love with him at this point, even though she has admitted it, I guess, to herself anyway. And her grandfather, I think, or it's her uncle, it's probably her uncle, he says, he talks to Hachiken and says, an outsider really won't have any interest in our debt. Like, this will be kind of boring to listen to. Do you want me to just take you back to school? And Mikage just holds on to him and says, no, I asked him to be here. I want him to be here. Mm-hmm. And that was a really great moment. And another great moment, actually, this series surprisingly does romance really well. When they're going back to Mikage's house, they actually walk there. They don't, like, take a car. They just walk there because they're relatively close by, Mikage's house and Komoba's house. And they're talking about... That's where Hachiken reveals that Komoba's dreams have been completely shattered, and he says that's really scary. But he says it's scarier to live life without having a dream because Hachiken doesn't have a dream. And then Mikage just chimes in and says it's even scarier having a dream and knowing you'll never accomplish it. And that's where he does his best to convince her to tell her parents that she doesn't want to take over the farm. And actually, when you cut away, you actually see that they're holding hands. And it's really sweet because a lot of times in anime, when two characters who like each other will hold hands, they won't notice they're doing it. And they actually don't notice they're doing it here in Silver Spoon. But then they will notice eventually, and then they're like, oh no, we're holding hands, yeah. And then they'll let go. They don't do that here. No. They just keep walking with their hands held.
It's not even a focus either. It's like painted on the background.
It's very subtle. It's such a good moment in the series.
During the meeting where the parents are discussing what to do about the debt, I really like the moment where Mikage stands up for herself. And then the whole thing goes down. But then everyone's like, is this going to be possible? What happens if it doesn't work? And then there's another confusion moment where Hachiken goes, no. If it doesn't work, I will take responsibility. And the shivers that go down the dad's back was hilarious. And he just, like, flipped the table over. And it actually happened. It wasn't like one of those moments where the anime characters have this little exposition that it doesn't really happen in real life. He actually flipped the table over, and everyone's still holding their cups and glasses and
And
stuff.
he's just like yells over my dead body because they all assume he says he's gonna marry her.
But I don't know. It just either A, proves the love of Mikage's family, or B, this is where the anime kind of dips into unrealism a little bit, where they accept Mikage's refusal really well.
They don't really take it really well, though. Only the dad does.
At first they don't, but afterwards it's a full-on acceptance with no ramifications. I don't know. I didn't think that with a farming family where she's the only heir, they're just going to let her go that easy? I don't know.
We should clarify where she does actually finally stand up to herself, mostly because her uncle is going to sell all of the horses they own that Mikage loves to help pay off the debt. And so that's when Mikage finally stands up for herself and says, I have a dream, I can't take over the farm. Something interesting that she does, which is actually really cool for Komoba's character, is after her family accepts this and everything, she calls Komoba and says, will you take over the farm? Like, it will be yours. You can become the next heir. And Komoba just says, my dream is to run the Komoba farm, not the Mikage farm. I'm going to have my own. And then he kind of like plays it off, saying, besides, it should be run by Mikage. It's been done that way for however many years. Although I think it's pretty obvious where this is going. I mean, come on. Hachigen's going to marry her. Hachigen's going to probably take over the farm. It seems pretty obvious. But at the same time, I really like how they're kind of, I won't say dragging it out, but letting it play out. It's very realistic.
I don't think he's going to take over the farm.
I'm 99% sure that's how it's going to happen.
Yeah, but she just totally renounced like her heir right of heirdom and everything.
But if he marries her, then he will become an heir.
Yeah, but he doesn't have to own the farm. He
doesn't have a dream. He doesn't want to do anything with his life.
Yeah, I guess so. He'll find something. You know, he's kind of like that Aikawa guy who wants to be a vet but is scared of blood. You know, I think Hachiken is going to find something. He'll probably work with the horses because it was kind of like that. He eventually learned to love the horses. He's also really good at cooking, actually.
I don't think he loves the horses yet. I think he doesn't hate them anymore, but he doesn't have a full love for them.
Maybe he wants to do cooking. I mean, there was that episode at the end of season 1 where he killed pork bowl, made him into pork, which was pretty realistic as well.
Bacon. He made him into bacon.
Bacon, not pork. He is pork already. And then gave the meat to everybody at a big barbecue and sent some off to his parents. Apparently everyone said the bacon was really good. And actually it's at that point where the mom lies to him, right? That's the point where, yeah. Hachiken's dad, is this where you want to go off and talk about his dad? Are you ready for that?
Yeah, I want to talk about his dad's character. His mom, like Spencer was saying, like sends Hachiken text messages like, oh, the bacon was good. Even dad said it was delicious. Yeah, he didn't say that. Hachiken finds out that his dad's like, I didn't say anything about the flavor, because that's kind of what he does. He doesn't really, like, he'll eat food, but he doesn't really comment on it. It's just kind of what he does. So, okay, Hachiken's father. In the final episode of the second season, Hachiken goes back home to get like a bunch of notebooks because he's, as part of the deal with Mikage's family, he said he would help her get into college because Mikage's family said unless she gets into university or college, they're not going to accept her, like, not inheriting the farm. And so Hachiken says, I'll help her out because she is really bad at studying. Her grades are awful. Anyway, so he goes back home because his brother got into Tokyo University, so he's taking his brother's notes. And his dad is there, and so Hachiken, he tells his dad about Komoba's farm shutting down, and he asks him about money, and then his dad's like, no, we have all the money we need. We have a bunch of savings. And Hachiken's like, so if I want to go to university, he's like, we have savings for you to go to university. And basically any question that Hachiken asks him, his dad has a response that we're already prepared. And I kind of realized that his dad actually, in his own way, really cares about Hachiken. He works really hard to get his son going. And the thing is, his dad kind of comes off as a prick because Hachiken tells him that he's helping Mikage get into university, and his dad says, how can a failure ever help someone succeed?
But how many viewers are going to relate to Hachiken? A lot. A lot of parents are like Hachiken's dad in that harsh expectations, but worked really hard to provide for him. And I bet there's some history with Hachiken's dad where he didn't get enough money to go to university, this, that, the other thing, worked really hard to become a businessman so that he can provide Hachiken some money. but he's just emotionally unable to provide that story to Hachiken. And so he comes off as prickish.
That's what I'm saying. He's a really good character.
Yeah.
He really cares about his son, but he just can't express it emotionally. And Hachiken isn't at that level yet in terms of maturity where he can see that. When I see his dad, I see like a really hard man, like emotionally hard, that just wants to provide the best life he can for his son, and he wants his son to try to do the same, where he tries his best to provide himself with the best life he can. And Hachiken's just unable to see that. I think his brother Shingo can see it, but he's already decided that what he wants is not what his father wants, and so he just goes off and does his own thing, which is really interesting. Part of the reason that I think Hachiken's dad really cares about him is he actually does show up to the hospital when Hachiken's hurt, and after he finds out that his son's fine, he goes back to work. I mean, that's like, what was it? It was like a 3-hour train ride to get there, and he just drops everything and comes to see his son. That's not something that a father who wouldn't care would do.
As the season 2 kind of winds down, you see all the characters beginning to discuss what will happen in the next, I guess, season. It really is the next season. For the next year, people won't be living in the dorms as much as they were before, whereas I think Hachiken is still going to because he lives in the city. So I believe they're setting it up for a lot of characters to get pushed out of the scenes and some new characters get brought in when the first years or whatever get put into the dorms. I thought that's pretty interesting. But half the characters that were on screen in that final moment where they're all walking back, I had no idea who they were.
They were kind of unimportant side characters. You actually noticed like Mikage saying, "Oh, I'm going to stay in the dorms." I think Beppu says the same thing. Really, all the main characters are still going to stay, minus Komoba because he dropped out.
I don't know if Aikawa is going to stay. I heard
he said he's not.
He's not going to stay?
No, he wants to go to cram school so he can be a better vet.
Because I hear like a lot of the dairy science people are... Speaking of dairy science, Tokiwa, he's a really smart guy in regards to dairy, I believe. And he actually spent the time and energy to research how to make yogurt. And it was really good yogurt, but the gross part was he decided to ferment it in the men's bath. And... every guy, me personally as well, was so disturbed by the image of a bunch of naked men bathing around a bottle of yogurt. And it was gross. And Nishikawa actually, as you know, otaku as he is, says, well, you know how much money you'd make if you put that in the women's bath? It was funny. And there's a moment where when Hachiken goes back home, he gets all these gifts, like natto and yogurt and cheese from his various friends, but he accidentally leaves it at home, and his parents eat all the gifts. And the mom especially liked the yogurt, and Hachiken can only say, I'm sorry. I am so sorry. Oh, it's just funny. I don't know, just those little side plots all throughout just kind of weave the characters together. I like that.
Yeah. I want to talk a little bit about Hachiken's character. Because, in my opinion, Hachiken is one of the best characters in the last few years of anime. Like, he's up there. Because he's the most realistic character I've seen in years. He's done so well. The way... he reacts to everything, the way his development happens, it's so good. I mean, like I said before, I didn't like the first season because there was a bit of development, but there was no payoff. There wasn't anything until the second season, which is why I didn't like the first season. But when there was the payoff, I was so invested in Hachiken. Everything he did, I was like completely invested. He really felt like someone I knew, you know? Like he felt like he could be a friend I knew in real life.
Well, look at it this way. Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood is what, 80 episodes? At its finish?
Something like that.
Something like that. This is episode 24. If you look at it in the big picture of things, if this goes 2 more seasons like we're maybe thinking it will, because the manga's still going, that could get up to 48, 50. The characters in Fullmetal Alchemist were getting very, very in-depth by that point.
The characters in Fullmetal Alchemist are great. I think Hachiken's actually better.
Yeah.
He's a better character than Ed. And I love Ed.
Well, and what I'm trying to say is that when you watch a 12-episode season, it seems to take forever because you're usually watching them as they release or in one shot. And if you watch it in one shot, it goes by very fast. But for some reason, long animes like One Piece, Naruto, Cardcaptor, whatever you're watching...
Naruto, damn it. Say it right.
Whatever. Naruto. I'm sorry, I'm white. Leave it alone. Wait, you're not... Never mind. Those animes, you can watch 30 episodes and it feels like 3, right? And I think that's what, like, the thing about Fullmetal Alchemist is it wasn't that intense, but it did flow in that sense. And the characters built over a long period of time. So I expect good things in the long run from this. And the fact that we're seeing it in season 2 means that it's going to be really good when it moves forward.
Hachigen has had amazing development within the second season, a great payoff. But there's still more for him to go because, like I said, he doesn't understand his father yet. And he still hasn't gotten over his distaste for his older brother. So there's still a lot of character development for him to get through. But the way he is now, he's just so realistic. I can't help but like be drawn to him.
What I like is that the season can, and Silver Spoon in general, has the ability for an infinite amount of different situations to arise just because of the dynamic nature of the farm and the agricultural school and the teachers and all the different characters. There's so many different routes to explore. And that girl, the one that laughs like all the annoying girls laugh in anime.
The rich girl.
The rich girl. I don't know what her name is. You got to kind of see her family. You don't know if there's going to be something introduced there. I don't know anything about Beppu or any of the other characters, right? So there's so much more in-depth that can go forward with this.
I want more Yoshino because I actually really like her and Hachiken together. I mean, it's not going to happen. They're not going to get together. But for some reason, the way their two characters interact, I find really appealing. I would like them to get together. But she already like completely rejected him. She's like, I can't handle the way he overthinks everything. He's just not for me.
She blushed at one point. I know for a fact she blushed at one point with him. I think there's something there.
No, I don't think so. Because she's fully supporting Mikage anyway.
Maybe. I'm shipping it.
By the way, I love the name Mikage. Such a cool name.
Mikage? I think I'm saying it wrong. Mikage.
Mikage is fine.
Aki-chan. Okay, we're starting.
Her name is Fall. Okay, so
Really?
that's Silver Spoon. Yeah, Aki means fall.
Oh.
I think.
I'm good. I'm glad you're such a... What do you call that? Weeaboo? No, it's not a weeaboo.
You just call me Weeaboo?
I do my best here, folks.
I can replace you, you know?
No.
It doesn't have to be it doesn't have to be Raj and Spencer of James Brown. It could be Raj and someone else.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, that's it for us talking about Silver Spoon. Spencer, what are we going to be talking about next week?
I believe we're going to be talking about the ever-controversial Pilot's Love Song.
I have so much to say about that series.
So much to say that he probably came this close, an inch, to punching my face 5 or 6 times while explaining the plot points that he's going to cover next week.
Expect a lot of rage next week. So, God damn it. Anyway, I'm Raj of James and Brown.
I'm Spence of James and Brown.
We'll see you next week with Pilot's Love Song. We'll also talk about the movies, too, so look forward to that. See ya.